When individuals decide to alter their existence, they often start with a list. They consider all the tasks ahead, the routines to establish, and the objectives to achieve. Their focus is immediately on action, what to undertake, when to do it, and how frequently. However, what nearly everyone overlooks and what truly makes a difference is starting with intention. They bypass the crucial question, why am I doing this initially? Without a defined intention, a half-year strategy feels overwhelming. Every routine becomes a task, each new behavior feels unnatural, and every obstacle seems larger than it is. Because when you're uncertain about your reasons, it's easy to question why you should continue. Consider this: when you understand precisely why something is significant to you, no reminders are needed to motivate you. No one has to push you out of bed. You act because you believe. Intention generates energy. Pressure only generates stress. Picture two marathon runners. One runs because they love the challenge, perhaps never having believed they could achieve something so significant. The other runs due to external pressures. Same race, same distance, same training. But who keeps going when conditions worsen? Who finds a way to finish despite aching muscles and burning lungs? It's not the one under pressure, it's the one driven by intention. This is why your success strategy can't begin with tasks. It must start with a heartfelt list, a personal reason that defines what success means to you, not how it appears to others. Transformation isn't about impressing anyone, it's about becoming who you already know you are deep down but haven't met yet. When we don't start with intention, we chase others' dreams. We pursue unexciting goals, mimic online trends, and think, maybe if I wake up early, meditate, exercise, or read more, I'll succeed. And when that excitement fades, we blame ourselves for not being disciplined enough. But the truth is, we never knew what we wanted. We only knew what we thought we should want. Intention is personal and raw. It's not always a polished statement. Maybe it's, I'm tired of letting myself down, or I want to be a role model for my children, or I know there's more to me than meets the eye. It doesn't have to be perfect, it just has to be real. With that real intention, planning becomes clearer. It doesn't become easy, but it becomes meaningful. You stop dreading new habits because you remember that every small action is part of a larger story you're writing, a story you chose to write. There's a tale about stonecutters that I love. A man passes a construction site and sees three workers. He asks the first, "What are you doing?" The man grumbles, "Cutting stones." He asks the second, who shrugs, "Making a living." Finally, he asks the third, who smiles and says, "Building a cathedral." All three are doing the same task, but only one sees the greater purpose behind the daily grind. Only one is building something bigger than a paycheck or a pile of rocks. Which one do you think goes home fulfilled at the end of the day? When you think about the next 6 months, you have two choices: cut stones or build a cathedral. The habits will look the same on paper: exercise, study, save money, write, launch. But if you start with pressure, it will feel endless. If you start with intention, every small action becomes significant. I won't lie, even with a powerful reason, you'll have tough days. Days when you want to quit, when old habits seem louder than new ones, when 6 months feels impossibly long. That's human. But the difference is, intention gives you a reason to stand back up when pressure would have kept you down. There's a tale about stonecutters that I love. A man passes a construction site and sees three workers. He asks the first, "What are you doing?" The man grumbles, "Cutting stones." He asks the second, who shrugs, "Making a living." Finally, he asks the third, who smiles and says, "Building a cathedral." All three are doing the same task, but only one sees the greater purpose behind the daily grind. Only one is building something bigger than a paycheck or a pile of rocks. Which one do you think goes home fulfilled at the end of the day? When you think about the next 6 months, you have two choices: cut stones or build a cathedral. The habits will look the same on paper: exercise, study, save money, write, launch. But if you start with pressure, it will feel endless. If you start with intention, every small action becomes significant. I won't lie, even with a powerful reason, you'll have tough days. Days when you want to quit, when old habits seem louder than new ones, when 6 months feels impossibly long. That's human. But the difference is, intention gives you a reason to stand back up when pressure would have kept you down. Before you write your plan, before you make a list of tasks, sit quietly with yourself. Ask why. Why now? Why is this important? And don't accept the first answer. Ask again, dig deeper, peel back the layers. Your true reason isn't on the surface. It's buried under expectations, noise, and fear. But once you find it, you'll have something stronger than motivation. You'll have conviction, and conviction changes everything. When you start with intention, 6 months isn't just a deadline. It's an opportunity to meet the person you've always been capable of becoming. Not because you pressured yourself, but because you finally gave yourself permission to live in alignment with who you are meant to be. And that is how real transformation begins. We live in a world obsessed with grand gestures, dramatic changes, and overnight successes. We celebrate before and after photos, viral stories, and quick turnarounds. Because we see these highlight reels everywhere, we start to believe that real transformation must be explosive, instant, and all-consuming. But it doesn't. Real change, the kind that lasts, comes from small, quiet steps. It comes from tiny choices that at first feel almost invisible. Actions so small, they're easy to dismiss, skip, or underestimate. But stacked together, repeated with heart and consistency, these tiny changes create massive shifts. The mistake we make is thinking that if the action is small, the result must be small too. That if the change doesn't feel dramatic, it must not matter. But that's not how growth works. Think about how a seed grows into a tree. The seed doesn't explode into a tree overnight. It sits underground, unseen, unnoticed, slowly sending out roots. It spends weeks, months growing in silence. Only later, when the roots are strong enough, does it break through the soil. And even then, it's small, fragile, barely noticeable. But the tree is already on its way. Your 6-month plan isn't about making one huge, heroic decision. It's about making dozens of small, courageous ones every day. It's about choosing to move forward even when no one else sees the progress you're making, especially when no one else sees it. Imagine someone who decides to write a book. It's tempting to think they need to lock themselves away for 6 months and produce a masterpiece. But the truth is, most great books are written one page at a time, one paragraph at a time, one sentence at a time. Maybe some days just a few words. But the magic is in showing up consistently, not waiting for a burst of genius. It's the same with anything you want to transform. You don't get in shape from one intense workout. You get in shape by deciding every day to honor your body. You don't build deep relationships from one epic conversation. You build them by choosing to be present, to listen, to care every day. Success doesn't come from the intensity of your effort. It comes from the consistency of your actions. We often underestimate just how much power we have in small moments. Skipping a workout today doesn't seem like a big deal. Eating one healthy meal doesn't seem like a big win. Writing one paragraph doesn't feel like much progress. But the direction you move in today, even by a single degree, determines where you end up 6 months from now. It's like the course of an airplane. If a pilot adjusts the heading by just a few degrees, it can mean landing in a different city, even a different country than originally planned. That's the power of small shifts. When you start with intention, 6 months isn't just a deadline, it's an opportunity to meet the person you've always been capable of becoming. Not because you pressured yourself, but because you finally gave yourself permission to live in alignment with who you are meant to be. And that is how real transformation begins. We live in a world obsessed with grand gestures, dramatic changes, and overnight successes. We celebrate before and after photos, viral stories, and quick turnarounds. Because we see these highlight reels everywhere, we start to believe that real transformation must be explosive, instant, and all-consuming. But it doesn't. Real change, the kind that lasts, comes from small, quiet steps. It comes from tiny choices that at first feel almost invisible. Actions so small, they're easy to dismiss, skip, or underestimate. But stacked together, repeated with heart and consistency, these tiny changes create massive shifts. The mistake we make is thinking that if the action is small, the result must be small too. That if the change doesn't feel dramatic, it must not matter. But that's not how growth works. Think about how a seed grows into a tree. The seed doesn't explode into a tree overnight. It sits underground, unseen, unnoticed, slowly sending out roots. It spends weeks, months growing in silence. Only later, when the roots are strong enough, does it break through the soil. And even then, it's small, fragile, barely noticeable.
The beautiful thing is, small changes are accessible. They're available to everyone, no matter where you're starting from. You don't need a massive budget, a full-time coach, or perfect circumstances to take one small step today. You just need the willingness to begin and the belief that beginning matters. But here's the catch. Small changes are easy to ignore precisely because they don't feel urgent. You don't feel the consequences immediately. If you skip today, you probably won't notice much difference tomorrow. And that's the danger. We trick ourselves into thinking that delay is harmless. But the truth is, delay compounds just like progress does. Every skipped action becomes a brick in the wall between you and your potential. The good news is, momentum works the same way. Every small choice you honor today, no matter how tiny, makes the next choice easier. You build trust with yourself. You start to believe, maybe for the first time in a long time, that you are someone who follows through. And that belief changes everything. There's a powerful story about a man who wanted to change his life. He decided that every day he would do just one push-up. Not 100, not even 10, just one. It sounded ridiculous, but he made a rule. No matter what, no matter how busy or tired or unmotivated he felt, he would do at least one push-up every day. And of course, once he was on the floor doing one, he often did a few more. Then more, eventually working out became a habit, not a struggle. It didn't start with a hardcore fitness plan. It started with one tiny, almost laughable commitment. And it changed everything. When you think about your next 6 months, don't ask yourself, what's the biggest thing I can do? Ask yourself, what's the smallest thing I can do today that moves me closer? And then do it. And tomorrow, do it again. Trust the compounding effect. Trust that small doesn't mean insignificant. Trust that quiet progress often beats loud ambition. Because when 6 months pass, and they will whether you act or not, you'll look back and realize something incredible. You didn't just tweak your habits. You didn't just upgrade your routine. You transformed the very way you see yourself. You became someone who believes that the tiniest action is enough to change the world, starting with your own. And once you believe that, there is nothing you cannot build. There's something about numbers that makes us feel safe. We love measuring things we can see. Steps taken, pounds lost, sales closed, followers gained. It's clean, neat, and gives us something tangible to hold on to. But in our obsession with metrics, we often miss the most important signs of real progress, the ones that can't be easily counted, charted, or posted online. Real transformation is emotional long before it's visible. Change begins in the way you feel before it ever shows up in the way you look or the way others see you. And if you only measure your growth by external milestones, you'll miss the quiet, beautiful shifts happening inside you, the ones that matter far more. Imagine you start your 6-month success plan. Maybe your goal is to get healthier. You start moving your body every day, eating a little better. A few weeks go by and you step on the scale expecting a huge change, but the number barely moves. If the scale is your only measure of success, you'll feel like a failure. You'll tell yourself you're not trying hard enough, not making progress, that it's not working, and maybe you'll give up. But what if you measure differently? What if you notice that you're sleeping better, waking up with more energy, not getting winded walking up the stairs anymore? That your mind feels sharper, your mood lighter, your stress lower? These aren't things you can easily put into a spreadsheet, but they are real, meaningful signs that you are changing. Imagine you start your 6-month success plan. Maybe your goal is to get healthier. You start moving your body every day, eating a little better. A few weeks go by and you step on the scale expecting a huge change, but the number barely moves. If the scale is your only measure of success, you'll feel like a failure. You'll tell yourself you're not trying hard enough, not making progress, that it's not working, and maybe you'll give up. But what if you measure differently? What if you notice that you're sleeping better, waking up with more energy, not getting winded walking up the stairs anymore? That your mind feels sharper, your mood lighter, your stress lower? These aren't things you can easily put into a spreadsheet, but they are real, meaningful signs that you are changing. Imagine you start your 6-month success plan. Maybe your goal is to get healthier. You start moving your body every day, eating a little better. A few weeks go by and you step on the scale expecting a huge change, but the number barely moves. If the scale is your only measure of success, you'll feel like a failure. You'll tell yourself you're not trying hard enough, not making progress, that it's not working, and maybe you'll give up. But what if you measure differently? What if you notice that you're sleeping better, waking up with more energy, not getting winded walking up the stairs anymore? That your mind feels sharper, your mood lighter, your stress lower? These aren't things you can easily put into a spreadsheet, but they are real, meaningful signs that you are changing.
When we focus only on external metrics, we're playing a dangerous game because numbers can lie. Numbers can lag behind reality. Growth often happens underground, invisible to the eye, long before it bursts into something you can measure. If you demand instant proof from the outside world, you'll constantly feel like you're behind. But if you listen to what's happening inside you, you'll realize you're already winning. Progress feels like self-trust growing stronger. It feels like resilience showing up where fear used to live. It feels like handling a situation today that would have broken you 6 months ago. It feels like having a hard conversation you would have avoided before. It feels like showing kindness to yourself on a day you used to beat yourself up. These are the real milestones, and they are easy to miss if you're only looking at graphs and numbers. There's a story about bamboo that captures this perfectly. When you plant a bamboo seed, you water it, nurture it, care for it, and for the first several years, nothing seems to happen. There's no sign of growth, no shoots, no leaves, nothing visible. It would be easy to give up, easy to think the seed is dead. But under the surface, something powerful is happening. The bamboo is growing a vast, strong root system, preparing itself. And then, in a matter of weeks, it suddenly shoots up to towering heights. What looks like overnight success was actually years of invisible progress. You are no different. Sometimes you are growing in ways no one can see. Sometimes the most important changes are happening inside you, strengthening your roots, preparing you for something bigger. And if you measure only by what's visible, you'll miss the miracle happening underground. Of course, this doesn't mean that metrics don't matter at all. They do. Goals are useful, tracking is helpful, numbers give us feedback, but they are only part of the story, and they are not the part that defines your worth. You are not the number on a scale. You are not the revenue on a chart. You are not the number of likes on a post. You are a living, breathing story of resilience, courage, and growth. That story deserves to be measured in richer, deeper ways. So as you move through your 6-month journey, ask yourself better questions. Not just how much did I achieve, but how do I feel when I wake up each day? Not just what did I produce, but how much pride do I feel in the effort I gave? Not just did I win, but did I grow? Better yet, look for the moments that numbers can't capture. The moment you catch yourself thinking a kinder thought about yourself. The moment you notice you're less reactive when someone upsets you. The moment you realize you're proud of yourself just for showing up, even if the world isn't clapping yet. These feelings aren't soft, they aren't secondary, they are the foundation of real, lasting success. Because if you don't feel better about yourself, about your life, about your journey, what's the point of all the numbers anyway? Metrics without meaning are hollow. Progress without pride is empty. Transformation is about becoming someone who lives differently, not just someone who achieves differently. And living differently starts with feeling differently about yourself, about your choices, about your future. That feeling is your true compass. Follow it. There will be days when the metrics won't move, days when the results look the same, days when the world doesn't seem to notice your effort. That's okay. That's normal. That's part of it. Don't lose heart. Listen closer. Feel deeper. Celebrate the invisible wins. Trust that the roots are growing, even when the leaves haven't broken the surface yet. Because when the breakthrough finally comes, and it won't be because you chased bigger numbers. It will be because you honored the quiet progress, because you measured mastered what matters most, because you became the kind of person who doesn't need the world's applause to know they're already succeeding. And that kind of success, that's the kind no one can ever take away from you.
Somewhere along the way, we were taught that discipline is harsh, that it's about forcing ourselves to do what we hate just to earn what we want, that it's about denying ourselves joy, grinding through pain, being tough enough to suffer longer than everyone else. We treat discipline like a form of punishment, something we endure, something we survive. But that view of discipline is broken, it's incomplete, and it's the reason so many people start strong and burn out fast. Discipline isn't about punishment, it's about love, deep, radical love for yourself and for the future you want to create. Discipline, when you truly understand it, is one of the most generous gifts you can give yourself. It's not about making yourself miserable today, it's about setting yourself free tomorrow. Imagine a parent teaching their child to walk. Every time the child stumbles, the parent doesn't yell, "You're terrible at this, why can't you get it right?" They encourage, they guide, they celebrate every shaky step, not because walking is easy, but because walking leads to freedom. Discipline is the same. It's not a harsh voice inside you yelling, "Do better." It's a loving voice whispering, "Keep going. I know what's waiting for you on the other side." When you build discipline from love instead of punishment, everything changes. You stop seeing your efforts as suffering. You start seeing them as investments in your dreams, in your health, in your peace of mind. You stop seeing setbacks as proof that you're weak. You start seeing them as part of the process, just like falling down is part of learning to walk. This shift matters because the energy behind your discipline determines how long you'll keep it. If your discipline is fueled by shame, you might stick with it for a little while, but eventually the shame will wear you down. It's heavy, it's exhausting. But if your discipline is fueled by love, by a genuine belief that you are worthy of effort, that your dreams are worth protecting, you'll find strength on the days when motivation is nowhere to be found. Every time you choose discipline, you're telling yourself, "I matter." You're telling your future self, "I see you, and you're worth fighting for." That's powerful. That's transformational. Because success isn't just about what you accomplish, it's about who you become. And when you practice discipline from a place of love, you become someone who shows up for themselves, even when no one else is watching. There's a story of a woman who decided she wanted to run a marathon, but she had never been a runner before. She started training, slowly, awkwardly, painfully. Some days she hated it, some days she wanted to quit. If she had built her discipline around punishment, she would have given up the first time she missed a training run. She would have told herself she wasn't good enough, that she wasn't cut out for it. But she chose something different. She chose to see every step, even the ugly ones, as a way of loving herself into a stronger future. She missed days, she got injured, she fell behind schedule, but she never quit on herself because it was never about being perfect. It was about being faithful to her dream, to her growth, to her own worth. That's what discipline looks like when it's rooted in love. It's patient, it's forgiving, it's resilient. When you think about the next 6 months of your life, you will be tempted to think in extremes, to tell yourself that you have to be perfect, that if you miss a day or slip up or fall behind, you failed. Resist that lie. Perfection is not the goal. Punishment is not the tool. Discipline built on love allows you to stumble and still stand tall. It allows you to start over as many times as it takes. It allows you to see the gap between where you are and where you want to be, not as a reason to quit, but as a reason to keep going. Real discipline sounds like kindness. It sounds like grace. It sounds like waking up and saying, "I may not feel like it today, but I am worthy of the effort." It sounds like forgiving yourself for yesterday's mistakes and choosing to show up again today. And here's the beautiful irony. When you treat discipline as an act of love, you actually become more consistent. You're more likely to stick to your plan. You're more likely to grow. Because humans don't thrive under constant self-criticism. We thrive when we feel seen, valued, encouraged, even by ourselves. Think about a garden. You don't make a plant grow by yelling at it. You make it grow by giving it the right conditions: sunlight, water, care, patience. Growth is the natural result of love and consistency. Your life works the same way. Your dreams work the same way. So as you build your 6-month success plan, ask yourself, am I choosing discipline from love or from fear? If it's fear, pause, reframe. Remember why you started. Remember the future you believe in. Let that future pull you forward with hope, not push you forward with shame. Discipline isn't the enemy of freedom, it's the path to it. Every act of discipline today is a brick in the foundation of a life where you are free. Free to move, to dream, to love, to lead, to live without regret. It's not about denying yourself happiness now. It's about creating the conditions for deeper, fuller happiness later. You don't have to be hard on yourself to build something great. You just have to be faithful to yourself. You just have to believe that you are worth the time, the patience, the effort, because you are. You live in a culture obsessed with outcomes, finish lines, trophies, promotions. Transformation is often painted as a before and after picture, a dramatic reveal where the after is the only thing worth celebrating. And because of this, we start believing that happiness, fulfillment, success, all the things we want, are waiting for us at some distant point in the future, once we finally arrived. But here's the truth. There is no arrival. There is no final moment when you will suddenly become complete. The journey is the destination. When you begin a 6-month plan to transform your life, it's tempting to focus only on the end goal. It's tempting to believe that happiness will come when you lose the weight, launch the business, or cross the finish line. But if you tie your happiness to a distant future, you will miss the beauty of what's happening right now. Because real transformation doesn't happen when you hit your goal. It happens every single day you show up, every moment you choose growth, every time you keep a promise to yourself. Think about a road trip. The excitement isn't just about reaching the destination, it's about the experiences along the way, the unexpected stops, the late-night conversations, the memories you make without even planning them. If all you cared about was getting there, you'd miss the entire point of the journey. You'd sit in the car, miserable, counting down the miles, completely blind to the beauty passing right outside your window. Life works the same way. Your 6-month journey isn't just about what you achieve at the end, it's about who you become during the process. Every small victory matters, every setback matters, every moment when you choose to try again, when you choose to believe again, matters. These moments aren't detours on the way to success, they are success. When you focus only on the finish line, you create a fragile kind of happiness. A happiness that's always just out of reach. You tell yourself, I'll be proud of myself when I achieve this. I'll be happy when I accomplish that. But when you get there, the feeling doesn't last. There's always another mountain to climb, another goal to chase, and you find yourself stuck in a cycle of constantly striving, never arriving. The real power comes when you shift your mindset, when you realize that you are not working toward a life you can finally enjoy, you are building a life you can enjoy right now, in the messy middle, in the unfinished work, in the imperfect steps.
Imagine a sculptor working on a masterpiece. They don't wait until the sculpture is finished to feel pride. They find joy in every stroke, every rough edge they smooth out. Every day they show up to the workbench, they love the process. They trust that the beauty is unfolding even before it's visible to everyone else. That's the mindset that builds lasting fulfillment. It's the same for you. Every time you show up for yourself over these next 6 months, whether you feel like it or not, you are living the dream, not just chasing it. Every time you learn something new, even through failure, you are succeeding. Every time you choose to keep moving when it would be easier to quit, you are winning. You see, the greatest gift of the journey isn't the goal itself. It's the confidence you build, the relationships you strengthen, the resilience you discover, the person you become while walking the road, not just the view from the top. And here's something even more powerful. When you fall in love with the journey, you unlock energy that can't be taken away from you. Because if you need the prize to feel good, you're always at the mercy of outcomes you can't fully control. But if you love the work, if you find meaning in the daily steps, then nothing can stop you. Setbacks can't destroy you. Slow progress can't defeat you. Because you're not just working for a result, you're living in purpose every single day.
This shift doesn't happen overnight. It's a muscle you build, a choice you make again and again, to celebrate the small wins, to embrace the challenges, to be fully present where you are instead of obsessed with where you wish you were. There will be days when you don't feel like you're making progress, days when the vision feels far away, days when you wonder if it's even worth it. On those days, remember, you are already in the middle of the transformation. You're already living the story you will one day tell. This is it, right now. Success isn't waiting for you 6 months from now, it's happening today. In the decision to lace up your shoes and go for a run, even if it's just a mile. In the moment you choose to work on your dream project, even if it's just for 15 minutes. In the conversation where you listen more deeply than you did yesterday. In the act of staying kind to yourself when you fall short. These are not small things. These are the bricks that build a life of meaning. The journey is not the price you pay to get to the destination. It is the destination. It always has been. So as you move forward, keep your eyes open. Celebrate the messy middle. Find pride in the effort, not just the outcome. Because when you realize that the journey itself is the reward, you'll stop waiting for permission to feel fulfilled. You'll stop postponing your joy. You'll start living fully, right here, right now. And when you finally do reach your goals, you'll realize something extraordinary. You were already successful long before you got there.